Well, g'day the traders right around the world. Thanks a lot for joining me on this Tuesday afternoon market recap. What I'd like to do is do this a little bit differently today. I'll start with a couple of stocks in our top 13 individual trade list, which are giving us some pretty interesting signals. Of course, some trades which hit our targets today I'll walk through. Then I'll round out the video with a little bit of a market update as at Tuesday afternoon. So to begin with, I'd like to start with Halliburton, HAL. The reason why, of course, is because today our bearish trade, of course, those put positions or the initiation to sell short below 53.56 worked out very, very nicely. You can see intraday HAL moved down below our target down here at $50.59. A pretty decent trade. HAL was down about $3 to $2.70 today. It was down closer to $3 at our target down here. All well and good, a pretty decent trade. So I'd like to say congratulations on those students who placed that bearish trade. A very nice trade, of course, to start, or at least to round out that individual trade, which really got us in or got involved in midweek last week. It took about 4 days to play out. But again, if you culled some of your positions, if you're still holding on to maybe 50% or maybe 1/3 of those positions, I'm still looking at that $48.59 target as the second target. We will start or at least exit out of all of our remaining put contracts on HAL. Another interesting stock also was Caterpillar. Caterpillar is starting to break down. You can see this rollover very, very similarly, getting a rejection at that 50 exponential moving average and that old support acting as new resistance. Very similar bounce. We're starting to see what could potentially be a rollover on this individual stock. You can see most recently we've got a cross on the stochastics. The RSI is turning down and the MACD again is plateauing right around this signal line. This looks like a perfect 1, 2, 3 trend continuation trade. You can see we've made that relative high, that lower low. Then we've made what we call our first lower high. If this rolls over, this is going to be a fantastic trade to the downside. Targets on Caterpillar are the same as in Pro, 95.30, then down to 91.05. I'll keep you updated on this particular trade. If you are in this trade, personally, I've got my stock up around Monday's candlestick at the moment. That is the risk which I'm happy to live with, just to see with what this position does moving forward into the week. Other notable stocks, Disney today had what we call a bearish engulfing candlestick pattern. I wish I could trade this as at Wednesday's trading session. However, earnings are coming out on Thursday, so it's too premature to start entering into any positions on Disney, either bullish or bearish. We need to wait for those earnings or that earnings announcement to come out. Then, of course, we will trade the gap. I'm very interested to see if this Disney gap is going to be an exhaustion gap to the downside, or if in fact we're going to kick off a new trend based off what the overall market is doing right now. Some pretty interesting signals. Moving on to Facebook, again today we saw a little bit of a bullish counter attack, almost a one white soldier candlestick. It's not really at that location where I want to see it yet. I do think Facebook does have a little bit lower to go. If it does get down here and we do start seeing some more bullish candlesticks, it's going to be a pretty decent trade to the upside. And having said that, of course, if the market rolls over and Facebook starts to break down, that 71.33 trade trigger also looks pretty decent as well. No real net movement on Google. We did gap down today, but it closed up 42 cents. Zero net movement. It is getting pretty close, or it's pretty much right in the middle of our two bidirectional trades on Google. No real net movement there. Netflix today down about $5.50. Pretty decent move. I'm really looking for the support level either to break, which is going to confirm a pretty decent bearish trade. Please keep an eye on volume at the moment. There's not too much selling volume in the way that I'd like to see yet. This, of course, can come streaming in. You can see that we're acting or bouncing into the 10 and 20. This is, of course, going to act as resistance. Trading bullish into an open gap is very, very risky based off a negative earnings announcement. I'm really just waiting for this rollover to take place on Netflix. That could be coming up very, very soon. Netflix today, not a whole lot. Bullish engulfing, but there's no real net movement in the overall trend direction. We're still stuck in between these old support and resistance levels. Still waiting to see what happens on that particular stock. Tesla today pretty much moved sideways. Earnings again, so this is very similar to that Disney trade. We can't really place a trade on this particular stock until at least we see a gap, or at least earnings is out of the way and we can reevaluate what, of course, is going on in the technical world. Twitter, a little bit of an interesting candlestick today, a little bit of a bullish engulfing right around or right close to our target down here at $39.35. It was up 70 cents, so a pretty decent move on Tesla. There's on Twitter, not much volume behind it. You can still see the exponential moving averages are giving us that bearish cross. Look for this to hit our target. If it does, I'd be definitely exiting out of those put positions. Even if we come very, very close to 39.35 tomorrow or on Thursday, this is definitely a logical location where you'd want to start exiting out of those Twitter puts. Now, Apple today, it was really the first day in a long time when we've actually seen a negative move for the day. It is a little bit of an interesting candlestick. It is what we call a hammer candlestick, pretty much at a resistance level, what could potentially be a resistance level. This could be the beginning of at least a sideways move, or at least a little bit of a bull flag if in fact the bullish trend is going to continue. At the moment, I can't give you any more trade setups on Apple. We just need to let this thing shake out before we can start becoming overly involved in that particular stock. Amazon today, a little bit of a gap down, still a little bit of a hammer candlestick. This is quite interesting. We're starting to see selling pressure at that resistance level. This is the resistance level which I'm talking about $307.70. Still have my 292.05 bearish entry. If we start to see continued sideways movement in the way of, doji candlesticks or shooting stars, things of that nature, I'm going to start contemplating bringing up that bearish entry. At the moment, it still needs to remain down here about $292.05. Baidu today, a bit of a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. I do want to see this pull back a little bit more before we start confirming bullish trades. Now, my understanding is that obviously there's a vote or an electoral vote going on this evening in the US, which is obviously going to play on markets as at the open on Wednesday. So what I'd like to say is be cautious when you get these fundamental or at least these political movements or potential changes in the political landscape. Obviously, that's going to influence the market. So please don't go looking for trades for the hell of it, or at least looking at loose entries when you've got such a pretty monumental type of election going on at the moment. So please stay patient. If the market's open flat, that's okay. But if you're seeing a very, very big gap up or a gap down, I wouldn't be getting too swayed in the overall or in the way of jumping into trades which aren't really confirming. So please keep that in mind moving into Wednesday's trading session. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, the markets today, they tried to sell off a little bit. You can see that lower wick on Tuesday's candlestick. It's pretty interesting because the markets, or at least the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it closed up close to 18 points today. This candlestick in and of itself is saying that, look, there is a little bit of selling pressure coming into the market right at that location which we want. But it's not enough to say that, look, the sell-off is done or the correction is done, or at least the retest of these old support levels are done. What I want you to do is pay attention to these exponential moving averages. What we want to say to ourselves is that if this bullish trend is going to be sustainable, we want to see the 10, we want to see the 20, and we want to see the 50 exponential moving averages hold the current price. At the moment, of course, we're well and truly away from all three of those exponential moving averages. So please don't be surprised if the market retraces back down into these levels. Consider it a buying opportunity. If we start breaking down below these key support levels and we start closing below the 50 exponential moving average, again, this could be a false whipsaw to the upside, and it's going to be a very quick crash to the downside, moving back down to that primary trend line, which of course the market retraced back into in mid-October 2014. S&P again today was actually down. It was down 5.5 points, but you can see the same type of candlestick. You can see that hammer candlestick. Let me just go back to the Dow Jones Industrial Average so you can see candlestick is more or less the same. The only difference, of course, is that one is white, one is dark. The reason why is because obviously one market closed below the open, the other rallied during the day and closed above the open. If you change to the NASDAQ, you can see that doji, perfect doji, right where that gap support is holding. So what I said during the week and over the weekend is that I expect this to at least get a retest, just to, of course, validate that buying opportunity, of course, that open window. If not, expected the NASDAQ to come back down again to these key levels of support, these exponential moving averages. That'll be a pretty decent place for this market to at least retrace, let the buyers show back up, and give this what could potentially be a new bullish trend some sustainability moving forward, or as we end out the year 2014. So that's a little bit of a market update, individual trade update as at Tuesday, the 4th of November 2014. I hope you all had a great trading session. I'll see you all Wednesday afternoon. I will give you another market update, of course. I do want to see what is going to occur on Caterpillar. Also on that HAL trade, if we hit our second target, if Twitter hits, of course, our first target down here at 39.35, and we do have a lot of other trades in the way of Google, Facebook, Baidu as well, that bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, Amazon potentially rolling over, a little bit of selling pressure coming into Apple, just to see how these types of trades, these individual companies trade for this week. All the best, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all tomorrow afternoon in another Wednesday afternoon market recap. All the best. Goodbye.